The goal for every NFL team is to get to the Super Bowl and win it. But let's just be real. That's not a realistic option for a lot of NFL teams out there. Sorry, Titans fans. That's not the case for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, however, and I have the blueprint for them to get to their third Super Bowl in 2026. I'm Evan Winter with A to Z Sports. Let's break it down. Now, like I said, not every team has a legit path to the Super Bowl. I think the Buccaneers do, even if they did miss the playoffs last year. Injuries played a huge role in the collapse over the final, 7, 8 games of the year. And the Buccaneers have done a really good job of retooling the roster this offseason. There are plenty of pundits out there that will agree with me. This is a very talented roster, and it has a lot of decent depth in some key areas. Now, like every other NFL roster, it's not perfect. It has its weaknesses. But if the Buccaneers can accomplish these 6 items that I have laid out, then they're Super Bowl bound. Go ahead and book that. And before we start, let's just go ahead and preface this with all of these items, everything that I'm about to talk about, it all stems from the understanding that, for the most part, the Buccaneers stay healthy. So we're going to get like injury talk and all that stuff. We're not going to include that in here because it's obvious if Baker Mayfield needs to stay healthy for the Buccaneers to get to the Super Bowl, right? So we're going to leave those conversations aside and dive into some more deeper topics that make a little bit more sense overall. And starting with number 1, just like the old football adage, it all starts up front. And that's the exact case for the Buccaneers in 2026. The offensive line going into last year was considered to be a top 5 unit on paper, but we never got to see that come to fruition. Tristan Wirfs missed the first 3 games of the season dealing with his knee injury, or knee surgery, I should say. And then Cody Mauch suffered a season-ending injury in week 2 against the Texans, completely set the tone for the rest of the season of just a dysfunctional unit that really held Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers offense at back at times. So offensive line, though, if it can stay healthy this year, like I said, we're assuming that, or just the majority of the offensive line stays healthy, maybe a guy goes down for a time or 2 here or there, whatever it might be, then it's going to propel this offense potentially back to 2024 levels that we saw. And that's because it's an overall athletic, experienced unit that has a lot of cohesion and chemistry already in place despite last year's just craziness. And then on flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, if Zack Robinson can live up to his billing, and then again, Calijah Kancey stays healthy, the Buccaneers arguably have one of the best defensive lines in all of football. I mean, Vita Vea, Zack Robinson, Calijah Kancey, those are 3 skill sets that feed off of each other perfectly. And it's going to cause all kinds of hell for opposing offensive linemen. And then obviously we've talked about the Buccaneers secondary here and there. It's kind of a big question mark, right? Well, if the defensive line is causing havoc and forcing quarterbacks to get the ball out quicker or miss a read here and there, whatever, verbiage, whatever phrasing you want to use, then that's a big deal. And it's going to help offset whatever potential problems lie in the secondary. If the Buccaneers defensive line can live up to its potential, then they're going to have good things happening on that side of the ball. Next up on this list is Baker Mayfield regaining his 2024 form. Baker Mayfield was lights out in 2024, threw 41 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards. I mean, the dude just absolutely ripped to shreds. And a lot of people thought it was enough to get him the contract extension he's currently seeking. However, the Bucs just don't really extend guys after 2 years into their deals. It's just kind of what they do. But regardless, I digress. Baker has to get back to form. And that all starts with the guys around him. And that all starts with him helping make the guys around him better. Now, one thing Baker has to do this year is he has to, and this is going to be hard for him, and you don't want to ever take away stuff or limit stuff, I should say, that make players great, but he's got to lessen the hits that he takes on a game-to-game basis. And I know, we all have the classic moment in 2023, get your weight up, son, all that other stuff, and that's just the fiery competitor that he is. But at the same time, it is holding him back. I mean, we've all probably watched the Netflix's season 3 of Quarterback that just came out the other day. And I mean, good Lord, when you look at the list of injuries and just what he had to deal with last year, that's clear they had an effect on the decline in his game that we saw after the first 7 or 8 weeks of the season. So if Baker can regain that form, he's got plenty of weapons around him to do so as well. Then that's going to take this Bucs team to another level that we haven't seen in the last few years. And of course, it'll help them reach that Super Bowl. Now, flipping back over to the defensive side of the ball, The pass rush has to get back on track. And even on a more granular level, the Buccaneers have to figure out how to establish a four-man pass rush, something that just simply hasn't happened at a consistent rate under Todd Bowles since he's been here. But now getting back to the pass rush, last year, 37 sacks. It was the first year that a Bowles defense in Tampa Bay hasn't recorded more than 45 sacks in a single season. Obviously, again, injuries played a role in all of that. But this year, the pass rush has the potential to be a 50-sack pass rush if everybody can put their games together. With Reuben Bain Jr., Yaya Diaby on the outside. I already talked about the defensive line. But then behind them, you've got Anthony Nelson, you've got Al-Quadin Muhammad, you've got David Walker. I mean, David Walker is your fifth best pass rushing option right now, and that's crazy to think about. Yeah, sure, he's coming off, a torn ACL last year where he didn't even get to play a single snap during the regular season. But knowing what we know about David Walker coming out of last year's draft, I mean, the dude is just as bendy and as explosive as Reuben Bain was coming out of college, and he has the production to match. So he is going to be a good chess piece for this Buccaneers defense. And again, he's probably the fifth best defensive edge in this rotation. Okay, sure, swap him out with Anthony Nelson or even Al-Quadin Muhammad, and that's still a great spot to be in when it comes to your top five pass rushers on the outside. So this defense, though, the pass rush, it has to get back up to speed. You have to be taking down the quarterback on the other side of the field, or else you're just going to get shredded in this day and age, and we saw that last year. So number 4, and this is staying on the defensive side of the ball with Todd Bowles in particular, he's just got to be a better head coach in 2026. We thought last year's game management would get a lot better once they brought in Zach Baseline to help navigate certain game management situations, whether it be fourth quarter or before halftime, whatever it might be. And it didn't really help that much. I mean, there were a few moments here and there where it's like, okay, we can see some improvement. We see these guys trying something different, that whole shebang. But overall, it was just lackluster and it didn't live up to expectations. And so Bowles also needs to be better when it comes to constructing his defense, calling the defense, and then also allowing the guys on the offensive side of the ball to do their thing as well. I mean, we can all remember the Panthers game last year, the very first one that the Buccaneers lost, where Todd Bowles talked about setting a certain number. I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but it was like, we have to run the ball this many times against this defense because this is what happens, according to the numbers, when you run the ball this many times against this defense. And that completely pigeonholed the Buccaneers offense. They went on to lose the game. Todd Bowles can't be doing stuff like that when it comes to Zack Robinson in the offense this year. He's got to stay in his lane. Yes, he's the head coach. He's got the ultimate say and overall say on everything else, but he wasn't really doing that in 2024 when Liam Cohen was lighting the world on fire with Tampa Bay's offense. So sure, Josh Grizzard's inexperience and first time as a play caller probably played a role in that last year. But again, 2024 was Liam Cohen's first time as an NFL play caller, and we saw what happened there. So Bowles just needs to do a better overall job himself. And I mean, there was a reason why a lot of people wanted him gone after this past season. Not on top of just strategic and just in-game situations, but he also has to do a good job of manning the ship and keeping it afloat when guys go down. It seems like whenever the Buccaneers lose their top guys, hardly anyone ever steps up. Sure, there are some guys here and there. Tez Johnson last year, for instance, he was a really good feel-good story with all the injuries that were hitting the Buccaneers receiver room. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, nobody really steps up and becomes that guy. And sure, that's not going to happen 100% of the time. It's probably not even going to happen 75% of the time. But with the Buccaneers, it feels like it happens like 10% of the time. And that needs to change. And that starts with Todd Bowles and his coaching staff. And sticking with the coaching staff, Zack Robinson's offense has to click in 2026. We can't have a Dave Canales version of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense where just the entire season is up and down. They're trying to find their footing. Things are working a little bit. They don't work at all. Some things work great. The Dave Canales experience in 2023 was not good when you just zoom out and look at it from a total standpoint. Still shocked to this day he got a head coaching gig after that season. But regardless, we've all moved on from that. That can't be the case with this. I don't think it's going to be the case with this in 2026 with Zack Robinson. He knows what he has to deal with in terms of his personnel, and he's going to scheme around those guys. He's not going to put round or square pegs in round holes, nothing like that. And if you're concerned about his heavy usage of the pistol during his 2 years in Atlanta, I think that's a good sign because Michael Penix Jr. coming out of Washington, that's was his primary package, was the pistol formation whenever he was in school. That's what he was best at. So why are you going to take your young quarterback, rookie first or second year quarterback, and force him into a system that doesn't fit his strengths? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the same thing goes with Kirk Cousins, who was coming off the Achilles injury. He really was having issues dropping back out of a traditional under center formation. So they incorporated more pistol to help with that. And again, the Falcons were running pistol a lot before Zack Robinson came in, and it helped Bijan Robinson have a very successful rookie year in 2023. So why would Zack Robinson just change all this stuff up to make a point? It makes zero sense. He's going to take that exact attitude, that exact mindset, and he's going to apply it to the Buccaneers offense, and it should result in a good product. Now, listen, I'm not saying the Buccaneers need to have a top 5 or a top 10 offense. That would be great. But it needs to be at least top 12. It can't be average. It can't be below average. It's got to be in that above average range. Can that happen in year one? We'll just have to wait and see, but it has to happen. And then lastly on this list is the special teams has to rebound. Yeah, sure. I saved special teams for the last point for an obvious reason. It's special teams. But still, we saw how bad this unit was last year, and we saw how it cost the Buccaneers a couple of games. And as it turned out, those couple of games could have gotten them into the playoffs. Riley Dixon is back. We'll see what happens with him. But fortunately, the Buccaneers have one of the best kickers in the league in Chase McLaughlin. And unless he has he struggles like he did at the beginning of last year, then he should be locked in and ready to go. He's a top 5 kicker. And let's remember, they literally started kicking the ball out of the end zone on kickoffs because they couldn't cover kicks. I mean, dude, that's just unacceptable. Like, you have to get better. It's a low bar, but the special teams has to improve, because if not, then the Buccaneers can kiss any chances at a Super Bowl goodbye. So before we close out, I did have an honorable mention, kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the secondary has to be on point. They have to stay healthy. But I feel like mentioning the defensive line and the pass rush as my primary points, that as long as those two units are gelling and getting the job done, it should offset a lot of questions, surrounding the Buccaneers secondary. I do feel like they're an honorable mention, though. I feel like I would be amiss if I did not mention the secondary. So with all that being said, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think there's another element to this that the Buccaneers have to get done in order to get back to the Super Bowl? Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and we'll talk about it.